Hello and welcome to UzReport World News, and my name is Bahram Gafarov. Uzbekistan intends to spend over $11.5 million to develop the spirituality. President Shavkat Mirziyoyev, during his regular meeting on Wednesday, urged officials to radically revise the scientific and applied research work in the field of protecting society from spiritual threats.
Mirziyoyev called on the Islamic Civilization Center research institutes to turn into think tanks in responding to spiritual threats. A timely response is crucial as protest moods that can be seen in some regions. No doubt they were initiated artificially, the president said. He proposed to establish a new foundation for the support of spirituality and creativity. The new body will promote the national idea, raise the effectiveness of spiritual and educational work, will work on developing literature and reading culture. Some $11.5 million will be allocated for these purposes. Moreover, Mirziyoyev gave instructions to strengthen the status of the Uzbek language as the state language, to introduce modern technologies for its study in the country and abroad.
Turkmenistan and Kazakhstan are among the top 10 countries with the cheapest gasoline, according to gasoline petrol prices. As of January 18, 2021, per litre of 95 octane in Turkmenistan was 1.5 manats, which is around 43 cents. Kazakhstan has the cheapest gasoline in Central Asia, with Kyrgyzstan ranking 11th. Gasoline of the same quality costs 75 cents in Uzbekistan. In terms of CIS countries, the most expensive petrol is in Ukraine. Based on data from more than 150 countries, the average cost of gasoline in the world $1.5 per litre. The lowest price for gasoline was recorded in Venezuela and the highest in Hong Kong. Power outages have reached an all-time high in Uzbekistan. The Energy Ministry has blamed outdated equipment, while adding that it doesn't have enough resources to solve the problem. Meteorologists said even cooler days are expected this week. Energy Minister Alisher Sultanov on Wednesday said he was aware of the situation.
By the end of this week, a cold snap is expected in Uzbekistan. We are all aware of the situation and take all measures to solve the problems, ensure a sustainable energy and gas supply to homes and businesses. In the last decade of January, 2.3 billion kilowatt-hours of electricity will be released to consumers. 1.1 billion cubic meters of natural gas, 19.2 thousand tons of liquefied gas. Currently, 156,635 tons of coal and briquettes are stored in coal warehouses.
The chair of Uzbek Tourism Development Agency, Aziz Abduhakimov, has attended the 113th session of UNWTO Executive Council in Madrid. On Wednesday, he also met with Zurab Politashvili, Secretary General of the organization.
Politashvili praised Uzbekistan's efforts in supporting entrepreneurs during the 2020, which was full of hardships and challenges, adding that only 3 countries, namely United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia and Uzbekistan, have managed to continue channeling huge resources into the tourism sector. Abduhakimov in turn proposed to hold the 25th session of the UNWTO in 2023 in Samarkand. The Secretary General accepted the initiative and stated his readiness to support Uzbekistan in this matter. He also said that he personally supports Uzbekistan's candidacy for membership in the UNWTO Executive Board for 2021-2023 and is ready to provide all possible assistance.
Tashkent was once considered the greenest city in Uzbekistan. With huge urbanization process, the city has experienced it over the past 5 or 6 years. Today it looks like more desert. Even a moratorium declared by the president himself has failed to protect the trees from being cut down. Details of this story in our next report.
To somehow influence the situation and calm down the residents, the mayor of Tashkent, Jahangir Atikhojayev, on Wednesday proposed to allocate some $2.8 million to plant new trees. Underlining the quality of these trees, he added that the whole process will take around 2 months. At a session with ministers of parliament, he also promised to spend around $4.8 million to build playgrounds and other projects in the social sphere. Some $7.6 million will be channeled to solve social problems.
The third phase of clinical trials of ZF-2001 vaccine produced by the Chinese company Anhui Jihui Longkong Biopharmaceutical has kicked off in Uzbekistan. Trials are conducted by a Virology Research Institute under the Ministry of Health.
7,620 people had undergone screening on January the 18th. Of these, 3,386 volunteers received the first dose of the vaccine, while 67 people received the second dose. Volunteers aged 18 and over are accepted, and after filling out a short questionnaire, if the applicant meets all the requirements, he is invited to participate in the tests. This Chinese-made vaccine is a type of recombinant protein vaccine. During phase 1st and 2nd clinical trials, the vaccine was found to have a relatively high safety profile. If the volunteers experience any side effects, medical expenses will be reimbursed or free medical services will be provided. However, no such cases have been registered yet.
Kazakhstan plans to launch mass vaccinations against the coronavirus on 1st February, which plans to vaccinate about 6 million people, nearly a third of the country's population this year. Healthcare Ministry Alexei Tsoy told a government meeting on January 19.
The country is set to rely on the Russian Sputnik V vaccine, which will be initially offered to medical workers, Toy said. Kazakhstan is also set to launch domestic production of Sputnik V. An agreement with Russia on the construction of a plan for the production of the vaccine has already been signed.
Tajikistan's Ministry of Labour, Migration and Social Security has developed a mobile application to support Tajik migrant workers in Russia. Tajikistan today stands as one of the world's most remittance-dependent countries. The number of Tajik citizens seeking migrant work abroad decreased by 57% year-on-year in the first half of 2020 due to the coronavirus pandemic, the Ministry of Labour said. The mobile application provides information on relevant legislation for migrants arriving in, staying in and leaving Russia. The app is meant to replace booklets and leaflets that were earlier developed for migrants. The amount of money that Tajik migrants send home is likely to drop of 14% by 2021, according to recent estimates published in the World Bank's Migration and Development Brief.
Scientists in Beijing may be one step closer to having the answer to living longer and reversing the effects of aging. A group of biologists at the Chinese Academy of Sciences say they have developed a world-first new gene therapy and have been running tests on mice. It involved screening around 10,000 genes in search of particularly strong drivers of cellular aging. They identified 100 genes in that pool, but the one that really stood out was the CAT7. They then inactivated that CAT7 gene in the livers of mice. Professor Ku Jing explained some of their findings.
These mice show after 6 to 8 months, they show overall improved appearance and grip strength, and most importantly, they have extended lifespan for about 25%.
CAT7 is one of tens of thousands of genes found in the cells of mammals. The scientists also tested the function of the gene in human stem cells, human liver cells, and more. So far, there has been no side effects of cellular toxicity. Despite this, the method still has a long way to go from being ready for human trials and will require a lot of funding and much more research. For now, there's no final answer to cheating death, but the scientists plan on testing the function of CAT7 in other cell types of humans and other organs of mice.
Some European countries are struggling to make the most of the vaccine produced by Pfizer and BioNTech. Officials in France, Germany and Switzerland say they're finding it hard to get the approved 6 shots out of each vial. And the losses soon add up. 200,000 vials of the 2-shot vaccine should inoculate 600,000 people. But at only 5 shots per vial, that number drops to 500,000. The difficulties could also make it harder for Pfizer and BioNTech to hit a production target of 2 billion doses this year. That target is based on 6 shots per vial. In Switzerland, some officials describe the vaccine as thick and hard to handle. In France, one expert says there is a shortage of special syringes needed to get the most out of each vial. One German state said they could get the 6th dose only around half the time. Adding to the frustration, some countries are doing much better. The UK says waste per vial is lower than expected. In Denmark, they're even getting 7 doses out of each one. And the Netherlands has upped its vaccination target after some hospitals there also managed a 7th shot.
On December 1st at roughly 4:45 p.m. Central Time, 86-year-old COVID-19 patient Florence Bolton was blanketed by the loving tones of her grandchildren, her ventilator temporarily removed by a nurse in an effort to help her see the faces of her family members perched on an iPad screen above. Less than 24 hours later, Bolton was pronounced dead. Tragically, Bolton is now one of more than 400,000 Americans to have died from COVID-19. A heartbreaking and once unimaginable milestone crossed in the U.S. on Tuesday. And yet, the situation will still get worse, with another 100,000 deaths expected by mid-February, said incoming head of the Centers for Disease Control Rochelle Walensky on CBS's Face the Nation Sunday.
And we still yet haven't seen the ramifications of what happened from the holiday travel, from holiday gathering in terms of high rates of hospitalizations and the deaths thereafter. So yes, I think we still have some dark weeks ahead.
At Providence St. Mary Medical Center in rural Apple Valley, California, where COVID-19 patients line the hallways due to a lack of ICU beds, Executive Director of Acute Care Mendy Hickey offered a stark, emphatic reminder. It's not just the elderly who are dying.
There are a lot of young people. We had a 28-year-old, we had a 36-year-old, we had a 34-year-old that you have to walk their family in here to see them for the last time. And they have young kids. It's such an awful thing. And I just think, gosh, if we had just been a little bit more careful, we could have spared that person's life.
Hickey added that the political climate exacerbates her frustration and desperation in trying to keep people healthy.
It really gets to me when people say it's political, or that it's a fake disease, or that, the Democrats this or the Republicans that, because I guarantee that the patients in these beds and the family members that are watching their loved ones die could care less what political party they belong with. I wish people would just take it seriously and believe us.
While some health officials have expressed concerns about a more contagious variant of the virus spreading across the country, there are glimmers of hope amid the despair. Like in California, a surging hotspot since November, but where last week's hospitalization numbers began to decline, prompting California's Health and Human Services Secretary to say, quote, "It's the biggest signal to me that things are beginning to flatten and potentially improve."
I go from this majestic place with a loyal and joyful heart, an optimistic spirit, and a supreme confidence that for our country and for our children, the best is yet to come.
Outgoing President Donald Trump bid farewell in a video address released on Tuesday, but suggested his MAGA movement would go on as he wished the incoming administration luck, declining to acknowledge his successor by name.
This week, we inaugurate a new administration. We extend our best wishes, and we also want them to have luck, a very important word.
The defiant 45th president has refused to formally concede to President-elect Joe Biden, who won the election. And despite leaving office, Trump still has an impeachment trial on the horizon to determine whether he incited an insurrection when his supporters attacked the U.S. Capitol after hearing him repeat his false allegations of election fraud.
Tomorrow, President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris will be sworn in.
On Senators' first day back since the riot at the Capitol, the Senate's top Republican, Mitch McConnell, who will soon relinquish his role as the chamber's majority leader, accused President Donald Trump of provoking the deadly assault on Congress, heightening speculation over how he and his fellow Republican senators might vote in Trump's second impeachment trial.
The mob was fed lies. They were provoked by the president and other powerful people.
The House of Representatives impeached Trump last week, making him the first president in U.S. history to be impeached twice, but the Senate has yet to schedule a trial. McConnell last week said he would listen to the arguments presented during the Senate trial before deciding how to vote on the impeachment charge of inciting an insurrection that resulted in the siege of the Capitol.
President Trump invented the lie that motivated these criminals.
The Senate's top Democrat, Chuck Schumer, who will take over as the majority leader, said if Trump is convicted, the Senate will vote on barring him from running again for president.
President Trump is a threat to our constitutional order, whether he is in or out of office.
Trump's one term as president ends on Wednesday at noon when Biden is sworn in. With the National Mall closed to the public, Inauguration Day will be starkly different than previous ones, including Trump's, when he celebrated the peaceful transition of power. But on Wednesday, the outgoing president will become the first to skip the swearing-in ceremony in more than 150 years. The last president to snub his predecessor was Andrew Johnson, who skipped the inauguration of Ulysses S. Grant in 1869, almost a year after Johnson became the first U.S. president to be impeached.
Estonian company Single Earth has raised millions of dollars to buy forests and wetlands to tap into a rapidly growing carbon offset market. The digital platform connects landowners with businesses who will pay to preserve trees. Why? It's a chance for investors to save the planet, offset their carbon footprint, and make money. Co-founder and CEO of Single Earth, Merit Valdselu.
So the investors will have this perfect balance between helping to save the world, save the nature, and also get financial returns on their investment. So they will be earning money through selling carbon offset and biodiversity offset, because these are the markets that are going to boom in the coming decades. But they will also see the value of these assets grow in the coming decades, because the natural world around us is decreasing, but it's the one resource that we all need to survive.
Forest management is a contentious issue in Estonia, around half of which is covered by forests. In 2015, the government allowed clear-cutting in some areas, which involves the chopping down of vast expanses of forest, including the tree trunks.
And quite soon, we realized that the only way we can actually make a difference is by combining financial feasibility into the equation. So if it makes sense for landowners, for the forest owners, to switch their management methods, they are more likely to do that. So that's why we wanted to build new alternative business models for them. And carbon offset and biodiversity offset are actually markets that are already functioning today, but they are not accessible to most forest owners and landowners.
Single Earth's initiative could be fertile ground, given the global carbon offset market is expected to grow to $200 billion by 2050, from $600 million in 2019, according to Berenberg forecasts. Valdselu said offset projects could not only generate a decent annual profit of 5% for investors, but also encourage landowners to leave trees standing.
Uganda has accused the US ambassador in the country of seeking to subvert last week's presidential election. That's after the American embassy in Kampala said Natalie E. Brown was prevented from visiting opposition leader Bobi Wine at his home, which has been surrounded by security forces since the vote. President Yoweri Museveni, in power since 1986, was declared winner of the poll, though Wine and his National Unity platform want to legally challenge the results. Museveni claims the election may turn out to be the most cheating-free in Uganda's history. But the US Embassy has said the vote was tainted by harassment of opposition candidates, suppression of media and rights advocates, and a nationwide internet shutdown. It said Ambassador Brown visited Wine's compound to try and check on his health and safety. But government spokesman Ofwono Opondo claimed, without providing evidence, that Ambassador Brown has a track record of causing trouble in countries where she worked.
But what she has been trying to do blatantly is to meddle in Uganda's internal politics, particularly elections, to subvert our elections and the will of the people.
The public rebuke to the United States is relatively unusual, as the two nations are allies. Washington supports Ugandan soldiers serving in an African Union peacekeeping mission in Somalia and has donated about $1.5 billion to Uganda's health sector in the past 3 years. Troops have prevented Wine, real name Robert Chigalani, from leaving his home since he returned from voting on Thursday. On Tuesday, he said he and his wife have run out of food and milk for their niece. Her father has been refused entry to collect the 18-month-old, Wine wrote on Twitter. A police spokesman said a motorcycle courier had delivered food to Wine's house each day. On Tuesday, Wine's lawyers filed a petition in the High Court, challenging the legality of detaining Wine and his wife without charge.
Wall Street started the holiday-shortened week on an upswing on the eve of the Biden administration taking office as investors anticipate another hefty dose of government stimulus for the economy. The Dow rose 116 points, its first gain in 4 sessions. The S&P 500 climbed 30, the Nasdaq jumped 198. Treasury Secretary nominee Janet Yellen told lawmakers in her confirmation hearing Tuesday that this economy needs a big stimulus package to offset the slump caused by the health crisis.
Neither the president-elect nor I proposed this relief package without an appreciation for the country's debt burden. But right now, with interest rates at historic lows, the smartest thing we can do is act big. In the long run, I believe the benefits will far outweigh the costs, especially if we care about helping people who have been struggling for a very long time.
Those were the words Wall Street wanted to hear, says Vespula Capital's Jeff Tomasulo.
So when we have this stimulus package coming out, you have to see the future and say to yourself, hey, people are obviously going to use that money to do both. They're going to invest, they're going to spend money. And on top of that, we have a vaccine that is starting to work, right? If you think 6 months out, where we're going to have a lot of pent up people that want to travel and they're going to spend more money in the next 5 or 6 months. So I think that's where you're seeing a little bit of a pop today.
Wall Street also had to digest corporate earnings. Bank of America beat fourth quarter profit forecast. Goldman Sachs saw its quarterly profit more than double. But the big news of the day came after the close from Netflix. Faced with increased competition from Disney Plus and a growing list of others, the streaming giant still trampled paid subscriber forecasts. It took in 8.51 million new watchers last quarter, almost 2.5 million more than expected. Shares jumped after the results.
2020 saw the biggest yearly drop in European car demand since records began. Industry data out on Tuesday revealed new car registrations fell by nearly a quarter compared to 2019, and the falls continued in December for the third month in a row. Measures to control a second coronavirus wave hit sales in most of the continent's largest markets. In December, overall new car registrations dropped by 3.7% year-on-year in the European Union, Britain and the countries of the European Free Trade Association. Broken down, though, sales in Europe's 5 largest markets posted differing results. Registrations in the UK, France and Italy fell by 10, 11 and 14% respectively, while Germany recorded a rise of nearly 10% and sales in Spain remained unchanged year-on-year. Sales at Volkswagen and PSA rose by 8.2% and 1.7% respectively, but others, including Renault, reported losses. Luxury automakers posted declines in December, with BMW sales falling 9.5% and rival Daimler reporting a 14.8% decline.
After months of speculation about his whereabouts, China's richest man, Jack Ma, has resurfaced in a short online video praising China's teachers. It's the first time the founder of Alibaba has been seen in public since October, when he blasted China's regulatory system during a speech at a Shanghai forum. Those comments set him on a collision course with Beijing officials and led to the abrupt suspension of the IPO of Ant Group, the payments firm he controls. The blockbuster listing had been set to be the largest ever before it was abruptly pulled in November. Weeks later, Ma skipped the filming of a TV talent show he created for African entrepreneurs. His absence led to media reports and speculation that he was missing. Wednesday's reappearance by Ma has driven a sharp jump in Alibaba's shares. In the video, he praises 100 teachers and tells them we will meet again when the health crisis is over. According to local reports, the online event was the Jack Ma Rural Teachers Award ceremony. His physical whereabouts were not disclosed. Ma's video came as Alibaba now faces an antitrust investigation by Chinese regulators.
Cruise, the self-driving startup company backed by General Motors, is getting help from a tech titan as it tries to speed up the commercialization of driverless vehicles. Cruise will partner with Microsoft and use its Azure cloud computing platform for its self-driving vehicles. Microsoft's expertise could also help GM quicken digitization initiatives, including the use of artificial intelligence. In exchange, Microsoft has agreed to take an equity stake in Cruise. Microsoft will join GM, Honda, and other investors in a new equity investment totaling more than $2 billion combined, pushing Cruise's private market valuation to $30 billion. That investment puts Cruise in the fast lane when it comes to the companies that are in the race to develop self-driving vehicles and its technology, along with Waymo, the self-driving company that's majority owned by Alphabet, and Argo AI, the Pittsburgh-based self-driving startup backed by Ford and Volkswagen. GM stock soared on the news, jumping 10% to a post-bankruptcy record high.
So far, these were the latest news for today. Goodbye. Take care.